Welcome to another installment of the Movement Library. In this practice, we're going to activate and wake up the gluteal muscles. The glutes tend to be one of the areas of our body that should be some of the most powerful, if not the most powerful muscles in our bodies, and oftentimes we find that they are actually not that. And they are quite commonly therefore implicated in things like low back pain. So what we're going to do in this practice is select a series of movements and efforts that are designed to get the gluteal muscles a little bit more active. They're a little bit more targeted, and it's actually a great practice to do before, let's say, some larger movement practices, or even if you're going for a run or going for a walk. If you have your gluteal muscles on and warmed up, then you may find that if you ever feel any residual low back pain from doing either of those things, running or walking, you may find that doing this practice beforehand is a really valuable addition to lessen that discomfort, and hopefully with practice and repetition even help to reduce the presence of continued low back pain. To start with, we're going to be on the floor on our front. So come on down. Set yourself up on your belly. And two of the main movements of the glute max, for example, is extension at the hip and external rotation. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep a straight leg. We're going to just gently externally rotate. So we're not turning the toes all the way out, but we're going to just halfway externally rotate. That should already get glute max firing up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is lift the whole leg, straight as possible with extension. Lift it as much as you can. Take it laterally, float it out to the side, and tap it down. And then lift it back up. Spend more time in the air than you do on the ground, please. Bring it back in towards the midline, and a little tap down. Lift it up, repeat, take it out, keep the legs straight, set it down for a little moment, tap, and then lift it back up straight away. Bring it back in towards the midline. Try to keep that gentle external rotation, and tap it down again. 3 more of these to make 5 in total. Nice and slow. Spend more time in the air than you do on the ground. A little tap down before lifting back up, bringing back in, and setting back down. 2. Breathing in and out through your nose as always. I would encourage these movements to be slower than your breathing, and for you to just breathe normally. 1 more. Lift it up, bring it back in, set it down. Other side. Find a little bit of that gentle external rotation to begin with. Then lift the whole leg. Keep it straight as possible. Abduct the leg, take it out to the side, just a small distance, and tap down. Quickly tap and lift back up. More time in the air than on the ground. Draw it back in towards the midline, adduct it, and then a little tap down on the floor in its original position. 4 more of those. See if you can get a little bit more height of the leg as you float it up and out. Slowly tap before bringing it back in for a little tap. 3 more. Tap out. Bring it back in. Tap in. 2 more. One more tap. Out to the side. Once you've finished those, come on up to an all fours position. Since we haven't really warmed up our wrists and forearms yet, if you'd like to, if you'd prefer to, you can bring your fists down or make some other kind of variation that is supporting the wrists, or pause the video and do some wrist work to warm them up. Take one leg back, straighten it out, lift that leg up just like we were doing, except now our spine has the possibility to move. We're going to try and avoid that movement as much as possible in the spine and try to keep this just isolated to the hip. And then from that raised position, as high as we can lift without letting the spine take over, keep the legs straight and hover it out to the side and up and up and up as much as you can before the foot taps the floor. And then we're going to work that whole line in reverse. Arc it all the way back to its original position. As you do that, the spine will rotate a little bit, that's okay, but again, try to keep this movement focused in the hip as much as possible. Repeat that. Slowly arc the foot out to the side. Keep the legs straight, arc it up as much as you can, a little tap on the floor, and then reverse the leg back through the arc all the way. One more of those. Gradually arc the foot up and out, a little tap down as high as you can before floating the leg all the way back. Switch sides. Hover the other leg, straighten it out, lift it as high as you can without the spine taking over, and then hover out to the side. Use a nice big arc as high as you can up next to your hands. Tap down and then float back through a nice arc. Two more of those really slowly. Keeping your breathing through your nose. Following no particular count here, just breathing at a normal rhythm and rate through your nose. One more of these. Keep the legs straight. Use an arc, float up and out, a little tap down before floating back through that arc, and then tapping down. Switch your all fours position. Bring your feet out in front, your hands behind you. Use your heels down on the floor. Dorsiflex the ankles. The reason we're going to dorsiflex the ankles, if we have our feet flat down or if we lift the heels up in plantar flexion, we're taking away some of the power of the calves to help with the action at the knee. And then we rely more on the hamstrings for this action that we're going to do. And the hamstrings also help out with the movement at the hips. And so if the hamstrings are doing their work, they're going to be taking over, and where we want to really target the gluteal muscles here. So we're going to take some of that work away from the hamstrings and guide more of the work into the gluteal muscles by using dorsiflexion of the ankles. Press the heels down and then lift the hips up as high as you can. Keep lifting as high as you can and try to drive the action from the effort of the gluteal muscles. A little tap down to lower and repeat. A few of those. Lifting from the action of the gluteal muscles, especially at the top. Can you get a little bit more lift? And hopefully you feel those glute max muscles driving the action here. Couple more. One more to finish. Once everything's set back down, we're going to set ourselves up with a little 90-90 work. You may like to start with the fingertips tapping down behind you. You might also have some kind of a prop underneath your tush. And then we'll work towards hands-free. I'm just going to turn around so that you can see a different angle here. As we're doing this, when you get to your next side, pause there. Keep your 90-90 position and then try to bring your torso towards your front foot. So you're not, instead of taking it towards the front knee, you're going to angle yourself towards the front foot and tip forward. Any amount, and without the use of the hands on the ground, you're going to need to press this leg into the floor to control the movement. That's going to drive contraction of the gluteal muscles. Explore this movement here, tipping forward and then pressing yourself out, tipping forward and pressing yourself out. Be cognizant of trying to keep the spine neutral, because if the spine is allowed to move, oftentimes we take the work out of the glutes and we reverse ourselves out using our spine first and then our hip second. So try to keep the spine relatively neutral through that whole movement, and then pressing that front leg down will mean that the gluteal muscles have to do the work. You might like to slightly change the angle a little bit. If you do that, I would also encourage you, as well as playing a little bit closer to the knee, which is also fine and great, play to the space in between the front foot and the back knee as well. It's a little bit more difficult, but see if there's a different amount of contraction or perhaps different muscle fibers contracting when you go in that direction. After you've explored that for a little bit, come back up, keep the front leg where it is, and take this back leg, hover it off the floor, and then float it back as much as you can behind you. And try to straighten it out as much as possible, and then bring it back to its original position. Do that again, float the leg up, straighten it back as much as possible, behind you, behind you, behind you, and then bring it back, tap down, repeat. Hover, straighten it back behind you as much as possible. Straighten, straighten, straighten. Reverse, tap down, 2 more. Straighten it back behind you as much as possible. Tap down, 1 more. Straighten, straighten, straighten. Reverse, tap, then go to the other side. Set yourself up on the other side in 90-90. And start with that leaning towards the front foot, keeping the spine neutral so that the action is isolated to the hip and therefore driving action of the muscles around the hip immediately. Press that foot and press the leg down. And get that lift, get the control from the muscles of the glutes. After a few of these movements towards the foot itself, you can add in a slight change of direction or a slight change of angle and see what that does. A little bit of exploration here. Play around with the depth as well. You'll probably notice that closer towards your end of range, wherever that is, the glute muscles will have to work even harder. So I would encourage you to explore that. Couple more moments to explore. Once you finish the one that you're on, sit up nice and tall. Keep the front leg where it is. The back leg, we want to hover it off the floor. Take it back behind you and straighten it out as much as possible. As much as possible. Then bend the knee again, tap it down, and repeat. 5 of these in total, so 4 more. Take the leg back, straighten it out as much as you can. Bend the knee, tap it down. Repeat, 3 more. Straighten, 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 straighten. Take it back and back and back as much as you can. Reverse out, tap down. 2 more. Straighten the leg, take it back behind you, straighten, straighten, straighten. Hover, release, tap down. 1 more, the ultimate one. Make it last a little bit longer. Take it back, straighten it out, then hover it in towards its original position and do a little windshield wiper of these knees. And hopefully some of those gluteal muscles are feeling a little bit warm and a little bit ready for some further action, some further activity. This is just a little bit of a movement bite so that you can get ready for other things. Or if you have chronic low back pain, perhaps this is something that you do for a few minutes every day in order to help that low back pain gradually be released, if that is indeed what is leading to that low back pain. If you're going on to other things from this practice, I would encourage you to avoid going for any stretches right now. We've just gotten those muscles activating, contracting the way that we want them to. So I would leave it as they are and go ahead and do any of those activities that you're going to do, and then perhaps stretching a little bit later after everything else is done. Sometimes the stretching can deactivate the contractility of a muscle temporarily. So we're going to leave it as it is and then head on out into the rest of your activities for the day. Thank you for joining me in this practice, and I'll see you again soon.